Welcome to this edition of Scripture and Cinema, a look at Bible lessons we can learn from some of Hollywood's best known and some not so well known films. The 1970s saw many films released that dealt with God and religion. Two of those films, The Exorcist and The Omen, were ones that dealt with it from an occultic or a horror perspective. The Exorcist dealt with a young girl being possessed by the devil, and in The Omen, Gregory Peck stars as a U.S. ambassador to Great Britain, and along with his wife adopts a child who Peck comes to believe is evil incarnate. Now, against this backdrop of horror-based religious films comes 1977's Oh God, a comedy from Warner Brothers Studios starring George Burns as God and John Denver as Jerry Lawless, a grocery store assistant manager who God handpicks to be a prophet and carry God's message to the world. Released in October of 1977, Oh God briefly displaced Star Wars as the nation's #1 draw at the box office. It was a very brief run as Star Wars returned to the #1 spot the following week. Oh God is also included on the American Film Institute's year 2000 list of the 500 movies nominated for the top 100 funniest films in America. Now, the film also garnered several awards. It garnered an Oscar for Best Writing of a Screenplay based on material from another medium. That award went to Larry Gelbar. You may recognize his name from the television series MASH. He was one of the writers and directed several episodes of the show. It also garnered a Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film and a Saturn Award for George Burns for Best Actor. A Saturn Award nomination went to Carl Reiner for Best Director, and another nomination to Larry Gelbar for Best Writing. Now, in the film, John Denver's character, Jerry Lawless, is sued for slander by a charismatic preacher that God directed Jerry to call a phony. Jerry decides to prove his story in a court of law and argues that if God exists, it is a reasonable possibility then that God can materialize and sit in the witness stand if he so chooses. Now, at first, God fails to appear, and the judge threatens to charge Jerry with contempt for what he apparently thought was a clever stunt, an accusation that was thrown at Jerry from the judge. But Jerry argues that when everyone waited for a moment to see what would happen when he raised the mere possibility of God making a personal appearance in the courtroom, it proved that Jerry at least deserves the benefit of the doubt. Then suddenly, without opening any doors, God appears and asks to be sworn in, resulting in this scene.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me.
So help you.
If it pleases the court, and even if it doesn't please the court, I'm God, Your Honor.
Although the line, "So help me," was written to be funny, it does teach a biblical truth. In Hebrews chapter 6, beginning in verse 13, we are told that when God made a promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself, saying, "Surely I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply you." And so, after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. For men indeed swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is for them an end to all disputes. Thus God, determining to show more abundantly to the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold of the hope that is set before us. Now, the concept of making a promise and swearing by a higher authority than oneself has ancient precedent. The Life Application Commentary says that even in the Old Testament, a sovereign assured the credibility of his word by linking it to the power of a god, implying that the god would penalize promise breakers. But if the one making the promise is God himself, to what higher authority could an appeal be made? Well, the answer is none. Because as Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. And surely the buck finally stops with God because there is none higher. And though God needs no surety for his promises, the verse means that divine promises are guided by God's own character. John MacArthur goes on to state that God's integrity and faithfulness are the real themes of Hebrews chapter 6 verses 13 to 20. And Abraham is simply an example of those who trust God's integrity and faithfulness, which alone can make our trust of any value. Can we trust our own lives to God? Can we take him at his word? Can he keep us from failing? Can he finish the work he has begun in us? Will he lose hold of us or lose interest in us at some point along the line? In short, is there really any salvation and security with God? Well, Abraham believed there was. And because the Hebrew writer assures us that God cannot lie, we can be assured that any promise God makes, God is going to make good on. So, what do you think? Be sure and leave your comments in the comments section below. And while you're at it, subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe bar. And when the notification bell pops up, click on it, and you'll be notified anytime I add content to the channel. And that's it for this edition of Scripture and Cinema. Thanks for watching.